My name is Deborah Brunner. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Together Plan charity, and we are working to revive Jewish community life in the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. And we're specifically focusing on Belarus. We're building a Jewish cultural heritage trail through the country. We believe that it is incredibly important to record people's stories while they are with us and while we can learn from their stories. This is a film about the life of Sam Webb, born Sam Wabnick. But when he was born, the country or the territory was Poland. Today, it is modern-day Belarus. It is a part of the world that was occupied by different people, different countries, and calls into question many elements of who we are, identity, Judaism, oppression, suffering, and it's very important that we learn from this history.
My name is Sam Webb. It was Shlomo Wabnick in Poland, and we changed the name in Australia. It was very difficult for people to pronounce the name in those days, the English people, to pronounce some foreign name. I don't know if you'll take this. One of the problems I had is because my name was Wabnick, and in English the V is a W, and they used to call me Wobbledick. Oh yeah, that's anyway. I'm now 96. I was born in Poland, Brest-Litovsk, as a Polish citizen in 1924, and I left in 1938 and migrated with a family to Australia. I'm very lucky that I've got a wonderful family in Australia, and we're living a very good, peaceful life. I say that because when I was young in Poland, it was absolute hell for a Jewish boy. And I've never changed, I've never forgotten what it was like to live under the worst anti-Semitism in Europe, because they're very strong Catholic. And as a young boy, I had to learn to protect myself from being attacked by all the other kids who don't have an idea why they hate Jews at all. We used to say they become anti-Semitic from the mother's milk on, and they really don't know why they're anti-Semitic. In the early days, I didn't understand what it's all about when some of the kids wouldn't play with me or kick me or push me or something like. Anyway, it was hell living in Poland for Jews. Those that were fortunate enough to live overseas from Poland survived. In my town, we had 30,000 Jews. There is not one Jew left that was left behind, not one. And therefore, it means a lot to me to be of any help that I can to understand what history and what we've reached to this day, and to carry on our faith and Judaism. My grandparents at that time had a house, large house, which was able to accommodate 5 families. So I was born up with a family, with a beautiful feeling, warmth. Everybody looked after me, and it was just lovely. Everybody went to everybody's door like it was theirs anyway. Everybody shared everything. at some stage we decided, for whatever reason, that we have to move out. I don't know if any, maybe it was because children were born and it's expanding and it's, it don't stay like that forever, families. And we moved, family moved to not very far, nothing is very far. It was, for me, it was very sad because to me, it was, everybody was my family. I was never short of food. I was never short of playing. I was never short of anything. If my mother wanted to scold me for something, I'd run to next door to my auntie, and she would give me a lolly and everything. So the young days were very simple. I lived in a complex of unity and family, and that's what made it so much difficult for me to face up to the real world afterwards. But until I was 3 years old, I hadn't had any, except my grandfather used to take me to shul, and I was, it was very warm. Everything was a lovely warm feeling. I was looked after. Until I was 3 years old, I ventured out of the complex, and I guess I've always had a nature of being curious about what's going on around me. And I saw some kids playing a ball, and I just stood there and watched them. It was about 2 blocks from where I was. And then they came up and started bashing me, and I didn't know what it was. I mean, but they were swearing at me as well, and I didn't know what, calling me a Jew, a Yid, And I ran back crying to my mother, and I said, "Why don't they want to play with me? And they're calling me that I'm a Yid. What's that?" And that was the beginning of understanding that I am Jewish, and what I'll have to go through for the rest of the time that I was in Poland. I was a person of no person, limited to what I was able to live for and what I was able to strive for. That's all. Because we lived like a ghetto. It's an area with Jewish streets, Jewish shops, Jewish everything. And very seldom people went out of that survival of Jewish life from morning till night. The whole of Europe, wherever you lived, you had a ghetto of Jews. So it wasn't just in my city, it was everywhere.
Did your family not consider leaving earlier? Going somewhere else, emigrating?
Yes and no. Yes was most of my family on my mother's side left for Europe, for America in the early 20s already, because, and that was, so we did have family in America, and of course people always tried, but it wasn't easy. I mean, but now talking about America and to go anywhere, we would have liked to have gone to Israel, but that was then the British who stopped people coming in. So the situation was that why people didn't live earlier. First of all, they didn't have the money. Simple. And the majority didn't have money to do that.
Why did your family go to America?
My gosh, I can tell you that, but it's a very sad story. You know what happened in history after the First World War, and the Bolsheviks sort of started to show their strength, and don't forget that part was part of Russia, and so they used to just come to anywhere and just smash, do anything they like. They're very violent, as far as I was told by my parents. So what happened is that they used to come and just walk into a house, take what they like. They needed food and raping and all that sort of thing. This is Russian history, by the way. It's not what I'm telling you. There was the behavior of the Bolsheviks in those days. So what happened is that my mother's side, there were three sisters and a boy. And the Bolsheviks came to their house and started looting and things like that. And the father tried to fight back. So they tied him up between two horses. This is my mother told me. They tied him between two horses and galloped and put his arms out and died. That's how bad it was. So then my grandmother, whatever it was, they decided they have to leave.
But your mother went, or she didn't go?
My mother stayed. She married. The other sisters only one sister was stayed in Poland because they had a property and she decided she wants to stay there, which unfortunately she's made the wrong decision. She and her family got wiped out in the Holocaust. But we upheld the Jewish religion very strong in that period. That's what kept the Jews together. It's Shabbat, and the way we lived, and the whole area where we lived, it was Jewish, and that's the way I lived until I was 13 years old. We had bar mitzvah. It's not like the bar mitzvahs we have today, and the balls and the glory of being a bar mitzvah. It was nothing. We went to shul, we did a parsha, and came back to the house, half a dozen people with the rabbi, and we had a vodka, herring, and that was the bar mitzvah. So that's it. Being Jewish, we had very, very few. We had Jewish schools, but for whatever reason, my father suggested I go to a public school, a state school, and unfortunately, I've suffered an awful lot. I've suffered terribly from being a Jew in a non-Jewish school. For instance, my lunch, if I sat down to have my lunch, say my sandwich, somebody that would come past and spit on it. If I went to the toilet, they would piss on me. The teachers were anti-Semitic, the janitors were anti-Semitic, the head of was anti-Semitic, and the kids just used that. And I was used as a no person, no respect, nothing. All I do is had to figure out every day, how am I going to go to school and survive, and how am I going to come back from school? What fences am I going to jump? And that made me fit as well. So I repeat again, to be a Jewish boy in a Christian environment is hell. It was hell. I never knew. I had no right to fight back.
Did your parents and your siblings know how you were getting treated at school?
Yes, of course, they knew that. Of course, they knew that. But my mother used to tell me, "You're a Jewish boy. Why are you fighting? You're not. Don't fight." I don't know how to explain that. It was a matter that I got the blame both ways. What the other Jewish boys don't go hitting non-Jewish boys, but you do. So behave yourself. I don't know. Maybe the school was something better than the other schools or whatever they thought. Whatever. I don't know any other feeling. That's what it was. So there was no reason for me to take me out of school because they thought it was, I'm Jewish. But the Jewish people learned, it was in their body, it was in their mind to behave, to be careful, to learn, to be somebody, but don't attack. Don't attack. You're being attacked all the time. And therefore, and that's what unfortunately, when I think back, that's the thought, that was the way we were brought up. And I thought to myself, oh God, I'd like to have it all over again. I would attack more than I did. Not listen to my mother and tell me when I had a blood nose or something. And, but that was the upbringing of a Jewish mind. Keep out of trouble. Just don't show yourself. Keep out of trouble. So Jews were never had the right to fight back. And that's what my feeling. I never had. If I did, as I said, even in school, from the days I was in school, which I could fight back, and I did fight back. But what happened? Oh, the teacher put me in the corner of the class and stand there, punishment for me being a bully. That's it. So and everybody was to laugh at me and so forth.
Were you friends with any non-Jewish kids?
No, I can't be friendly with any non-Jewish kids at that stage. And we were, we made our own life, live within the life that within the sphere that you're in. We created our own life. We didn't. Skating was a very popular thing. We used to make our skating rings ourselves, because all you had to do is just do a circle of snow, because it was all frozen. And we'd come with buckets of water or something like that. And before you know it, in the morning, it's a skating ring. So if nobody could afford to buy proper skates, as kids, we used to make our own skates. It was a pleasure. It was, I never experienced or remember having a toy that was bought. Whatever toy I had was all the other kids had is what we made, what we create. How we made skates out of a piece of wood and some and wire and things like that.
How would you make skates?
How do you make skates? You get a piece of wood and cut it to the size of your shoe, and then you gradually taper it. From the top was like the size of a shoe, and at the bottom, it came to a point. Now, what we did, we made a groove at the bottom and put a piece of wire in it. And then we didn't have a drill, but with heat and wire, we gradually made a hole, 2 or 3 holes, and we were able to have whatever we can get, a piece of strong wire, and put that around your shoes at the butt, or if you could find any leather, you would make little straps and put them through and then tie it up, and that was skates. A big sport was all the roads were under snow and ice. Virtually only horses, and so sometimes we would see that maybe what do you call it, a droshka, we used to call it droshka, that's that carries people like a taxi. So instead of getting a taxi, you've got a horse-drawn, where 2 or 3 people can seat, 3 people or something can seat, and that. So sometimes you'd figure out how to hang on to it, and just on the skates, and you were being pulled along.
And did you ever leave your town?
Only when I visited my auntie that she lived in Brest-Litovsk, which is I think about 40 kilometers, but it was like going from Melbourne to Russia. So, because mostly it was horses and horse-drawn things. So they had a few buses if you could afford it as well. Now I spent my holidays with my auntie. I can remember that. I always look forward to it because as she had children at my age as well. But yes, no, wait a minute. We had holidays from school holidays. It's like your school ran a holiday, but it was sort of in the forests in the area where it was nice and healthy, and we had our own shows that we designed and fun and competitions and all that. I was always busy doing something, but it was always in the Jewish environment. Pogroms in Poland and of course in Russia too were very common things that there was no protection from any police or any organization. Anybody could do anything to a Jewish business, a Jewish organization, Jewish shops, and therefore, and of course the most feared was the church, because when there was any special reason or holiday or something, that everybody went to church, because Poland was probably, I don't know, still is in a way, is the most Catholic country in Europe. So what they heard was Jews killed Jews, and that's why they have a bad life. It's the fault of the Jews. Simple. So what do? They start smashing Jewish windows and this, and you know that thought that was the right thing to do. And we left Poland when I was 13, which is just after my bar mitzvah. We had a big pogrom in Poland in 1937. The pogrom was not just a few drunks who used to come and smash up a few windows and do looting. After it was finished, it was 2 days, 2 days and 1 night, and the whole district of the Jewish, the Jewish part of what you can call the Brest was annihilated. The people lying half dead in the streets. There was blood everywhere. There was not a window left anywhere. And as children, our family were locked up in a loft and we could hear it. So that in itself gives you the feeling of fear. So as a little boy, I lived in fear, being Jewish.
Sam's father had collected evidence that the police and the army had been involved in the pogrom. He tried to take his evidence to the authorities. Sam's father received word, though, that it was best for him to leave the country as it was not safe for them to stay. He managed to make arrangements for the family to emigrate to Australia, which they did a year later, alongside 5 other families.
I didn't know where we were going. This was the end of the world, because we were able to go to 3 different countries, but we picked to go to Australia, which was the furthest from Europe. Everybody, the 5 families got together, and we sort of shared the money that we had to come as capitalists, by the way. I forgot to tell you, it wasn't easy to get a visa, but there were 3 places. Anyway, the 5 families that came together from Poland at that time, we picked to go to Australia. Nobody knew anything about Australia. What is it like? We knew there were kangaroos and blackfellows, and that's what it is. But that was quick. We could get out quick. That was the only reason why we came to Australia. We had to show £200 sterling that we could deposit, that we're not coming there as refugees, so we say. and the families loaned each other whatever is necessary to pay back later and that sort of thing. When we arrived to Australia, we didn't know where we were going. We had no family here, but there were Jewish organizations that my father wrote to and told them what the situation is and could I find somewhere for us to live when we arrived. And they did. So when we arrived to Australia, we were staying in a first in the first floor of a building, of an old building, 5 people. We landed with our luggage, and it didn't have any. We had water, but we didn't have a kitchen. We didn't have a bathroom. We didn't have a toilet. All that was outside. We had to go, and that's what. But we were happy to be there. The first day that we arrived, I was 13, and I was looking out the window, and I saw some young kids kicking a ball. And I thought, my gosh, yes, they told me it's a wild country here. They're not up to everything that's going on. Because the ball they were hitting was an oval ball. Now, don't they know that a ball is round? The next day, when I saw those kids playing, in my mind was going on, shall I go down? Will they kick me? Will they do what I did in Poland? No, I better not go down. The third day, I took the courage and I went down there, and they saw me looking. Of course, I was dressed like a refugee, and then they mentioned over to kick the ball, and I thought, my gosh, what? They came over. They were nice. They were speaking English. I couldn't understand a damn word what they were talking to, but I could make out from the motions, ball, kick ball, and things like that. I've never kicked an oval ball in my life. I've never seen an oval ball. So now that's one incident that made me already feel, my gosh, I could go down, and I'm one of them. They don't know whether Jewish, Italian, or Greek, or whatever I am. I'm a person. I am one of them. That's my first incident of knowing that I can have my life.
Can I ask you why didn't you go back sooner?
If you want to know, frankly, I wanted to forget where I came from. Very simple answer. This sort of lifestyle, my family, lost every member of our family in Brest. Not one person left out of over 40 members of our family. That in itself is something that we made a new life, but the memory will never go away of how I was born, where I was born, how we lived, and the way we lived, and that's something that's never going to leave me. It's in my body, it's in my guts. It's not just that. And I do still, not but still, I do always look back and see what horrors were going on in humanity, and of course the Jews. So it made me strong. It made me ambitious to once I've left Poland, and I've never understood and never felt the freedom that I found myself in a country like Australia. And I felt that I'm now a citizen. I'm now somebody. I can make something of myself. And I did. And that's more or less the situation, and for me, the memories of all my family's cousins will never disappear.
How do you feel about your identity now?
I'm Jewish in Australia.
That's simple.
I was brought up, And that's where I was. That's how I was born, and that's when I realized that I was Jewish, and I'm Jewish, and I am proud that I have had this to live long enough to have the feeling of what it was, how terrible it was. And then we do have to understand that we have to do the best we can as a community to keep it going, to keep being together, to keep helping. And that's yes, that is very simple to say. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean to say that I go to synagogue every day. It just, I am Jewish.